Today we're installing a set of amp power steps on our 2014 Dodge 1-ton crew cab short bed truck. This is an amp part number 75138-01A. Now this will fit a variety of the Dodge trucks. This will do a 09 up to a 14, and this will do the actual half-ton and the 3500 series trucks too. Now make sure that you check all of your application guides to make sure that you're getting the right step, obviously. Again, today we're putting ours on a 2014 3500 truck. Before we get started with our install, tools that you're going to need are located on the front cover of the amp directions here. This is going to be about a 4-hour install. They show skill level of 4 doing it, so it's something that you can obviously complete yourself, but it's going to take you some time to do it, like we're going to show you here today. We've installed several of these steps, so we're going to try to hit as many of the high points and stuff and tricks to make this just a little bit easier for you on the install. Included in your kit, in the step kits, when they send your steps to you, you'll actually have, there'll be one long box. The steps come in, you can see the steps here. These are the amp steps that come in the box. Now you'll get 3 boxes inside of that kit. 2 of the boxes are for your driver and passenger side motors. And then your 3rd box is actually your hardware box that will come with all your wiring harnesses and whatnot in. So this is not only going to be a mechanical install, but you're going to have a little bit of electrical install to do on this as well too. So let's go ahead and get it started with our installation. Inside your hardware kit, you're going to have some reinforcement plates, and your reinforcement plates on your Dodge applications are going to go in the most forward and the most rearward set of these holes. There'll be some octagon holes here. Well, not octagon, but and there'll be a opening cut right here. Now your reinforcement plate is actually going to go in here, and don't drop it. It'll go in here like this. But first what we're going to do is we're going to be lining everything up to get our pop rivet holes lined up. So what you do with this is put your reinforcement plate on the outside of the frame, and you'll put these rivet nuts in, and what that's going to do is that's just going to locate everything for you. Okay, so now you'll come back with a 1/8 drill bit, and we're actually going to drill through the body panel here. Reinforcement plate. What you want to do first on your reinforcement plate is you want to get yourself a piece of wire, and there's a hole in the reinforcement plate here. I'm just using a real small zip tie, and all we're doing is we're using that in case we were to drop the reinforcement plate, so we don't have to go digging for it. It is all in the world it's for. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that in there and get it lined up. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to install our pop rivet. There's 2 different pop rivets in the kit. There's a smaller and bigger. Smaller one is what we're going to be using here. Mother. Before you pull your trigger on your pop rivet gun, you want to make sure everything's lined up good. Sure nothing's out of sync there, and you can kindly take one of these rivet nuts and put it in there just to hold everything. Kind of got to do this while you're upside down and standing on your head too. We'll go ahead and install our rivet here. See, that's what you don't want to do there. You want your rivet to go in there smooth. Now with that, what that'll do is that's actually going to leave your pop rivets in there, or your rivet nuts in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to install our rivet nuts. Now, in our kit, it includes what's basically an installation tool for this. It's just a bolt washer and then another nut that's actually going to help you to compress the rivet nuts in the mounting bracket. So when you assemble it, you'll assemble bolt, washer, and then the tapered edge down. Come into the rivet nuts right here, and you'll just want to tighten them down figure tight. Put this down figure tight. Okay, and the directions suggest that you use some soapy water with this, so I'm just checking my rivet nuts to make sure I don't have anything boogered up there. All right, good to go there. All right, so I've lubed these threads up with some soapy water. I don't know why in the world they want you to do that. If you know, you can comment in the video section there. All right, now the 9/16, you actually hold the bottom of the tool, and then 13 metric, you'll begin tightening this, and this will actually compress our rivet nuts and hold them in place. So we're going to try to get about 3 turns out of this. Until it begins to get tight. All right. That's good. Now to remove the tool, just simply back it off. Okay, that'll have our rivet nut compressed in there. It'll be stable. We'll move on to the next one. Holding it with our 9/16. I'm going to try to get 3 complete turns out of this. Don't want to over tighten it. And that's all there is to installing our reinforcement plates. Now again, we're at the rearmost set of holes. We're going to do our front holes, move over to the other side, do our driver's side, and that'll leave us with 4 reinforcement plates installed, all exactly the way that I did this one here. Now that you've got all 4 of your reinforcement plates mounted, what we're going to do is we're going to take the tab that we actually held our reinforcement plate up with, put a screwdriver in here, we're just going to bend this back and get it out of the way, and that way our bracketry will clear it. Now we're going to begin installing our passenger side linkages. To install our linkages on the passenger side, you're going to need one of the hex head bolts and a washer, and then you have 2 T27 bolts here. They're the rounded top and washers for this. So our linkages, we're going to start with our idle arm first, and we're on our passenger side rear. Our passenger side rear on this 2014 model, we're going to install our hex bolt and washer in the forward hole, this being the rearmost hole. And we're only going to put it about halfway. Now the idler linkage has got a half moon in it right here, and this is what the actual linkage itself will hang on. So we're just going to go ahead and slide it over the bolt there. All right. With everything loose, we're going to install our 2 T27 linkages, or bolts on the outside, and washers. Now the torques for these are 6 foot-pounds of torque for these two. The inside hex bolt is going to be about 16 pounds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring these up finger tight, and then I'll come back over to my hex bolt, which is going to be hidden. We'll have to take that one down with a wrench. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up before moving to our motor linkage. For the passenger side drive motor install, we're going to be installing 2 of our hex bolts and washers. And we're going to be installing our linkage with the drive motor off of it. So we will go ahead and set that on the 2 hex bolts, just like so. And then, just like our rears, we're going to install our 2 T27 Torx bolts in the front with washers while everything's loose. Now the torques are going to be the same over here. This is going to be 6 on the front bolts and 16 on the rear bolts. I just tighten up our 2 hexes with the 13mm wrench, just like before. And torque on these will be 16. Now we're going to install our drive motor. Our drive motors will actually have the hardware, or there'll be the 4 metric Allen head stainless steel bolts. They'll actually be taped to the motor. What we've got to do first here is we've got to put our dust cover on our motor, and you'll want your motors down just for easy installation, really. So we go ahead and put our dust cover on this motor here. It just simply slides in a tab here at the front. All right, now we're going to go ahead and place our motor up here. Now our motors will only go one way. I'm going to go ahead and extend that one out. So I'll move my step to where that will allow me to install that motor. That's as close to all the way out as I can get it. All right, now I'm going to install my hardware on the motor, and you will tighten these to 36 inch-pounds. Okay, driver's side is going to be the same as passenger side. Obviously, everything's going to be the same there. It's just everything's reversed here. So we're going to go ahead and hang our driver's side motor assembly. 2 T27s on the outside here. Install those, get them tight. Now we just want to again just start everything tightening down. All right, now we're going to install our motor on our driver's side. So again, put our dust cover on. We're going to put our motor on now. Our motor's oriented a little bit different on this side. It's kind of thrown to the back here. So we're going to push our step out. All right, come back in. Oh, got it. There it is. And then install our hardware and tighten to 36 foot-pounds. There's 36 inch-pounds, I'm sorry. Not 36 foot-pounds, 36 inch-pounds. 36 inch-pounds. All right. Now we're going to start the wiring portion of our install. In our electrical portion of our amp research steps, you're going to have your control module box, your wiring harness that comes in your kit, and also your lights, in which we've got bagged up separately. We'll show you those when we install. Really, the first thing to do as far as your wiring harness goes, the electrical portion of our install, let me show you what the wiring harness is and what all it contains. To start off with, the harness itself, this is your connection for your brain box, okay? Then you've got your ground and your constant power wires, which we'll hook up and show you where we hook up. The purple wires in this harness are going to be our trigger wires. They're actually going to go inside the cab of the truck, and we're going to hook them up. And this is to let your truck know when let your brain box know when your doors are open, and that's what tells your steps to actually go ahead and extend out. Then you've got two long drops that will go to either side of the truck actually. Both of those drops for the passenger and the driver's side will have two gray connectors on them. The gray connectors actually go to your motors. Then the two drops from them, they've got the red and black wires on them. Those are for your lights for the system. So it's a pretty simple harness. It's all put in together. You really don't have a whole lot of splicing to do other than the splicing that we're going to have to do inside the truck. So to start off with on our getting our wiring harnesses in here, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pick a spot for our brain box for our module. And you can use anything. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to install it on this 14 truck. There's a gap between the battery. Of course, the battery is fastened down, so the battery's not going to be able to move. So I'm actually just going to put my control module right there, and I'm going to zip tie it up to a wiring harness to where it stays. So now that I've got a home for my control module, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhook my battery cables and get started with routing our wires inside the cab for our trigger wires. Now, go inside of the cab of the truck. What we're going to do is we're actually going to run our trigger wires through this grommet right here. If you can see that, we're going to cut a hole in this grommet. We're going to cut a hole in this grommet right here, and that's what we're going to feed our wires through for our trigger wires to go inside the cab there. All right, now we've run our trigger wires in. We haven't done anything else in our wiring under the hood. We've just run our trigger wires inside the cab and brought them through the grommet there in the firewall. The interesting thing about this grommet, the new Dodge grommets, is on the bottom side of the grommet, they've actually got an access hole for accessory wires and stuff that you're going to run in the cab. You just cut the end of that stop off, and then you can run the wires right inside. We just used a wire to push it through, a rigid wire, push through. Now inside the cab here, you can see we've got all 4 of our trigger wires through the grommet neatly. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start wiring inside of the cab here. First thing we're going to do is this kick plate's going to have to come off. The kick plate to remove, it's got 2 7-metric bolts on the bottom side of it. We'll go ahead and remove that and just pull the plate off, and I'll demonstrate that for you now. There's 2 7-metric bolts on the bottom side here. This 14 with it having push button start, the push button actually is not attached to the kick panel, so it's actually not going to move on us. So once you get these 2 7-metric bolts out, just grab the kick panel from either side and pull backwards on it gently. And that'll let the kick panel just fall away out of your way. Now what this is doing, this is really just getting us access to, there's an electronic control module in here that we're going to have to move. We're going to have to move that module before we can actually get to our wiring inside here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and unhook the camera and bring the camera inside here and show the now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where the control module is underneath the dash here. We have to remove the control module to gain access to the wires that we need to that we're going to need to hook our trigger wires to. So, and this is going to be a bad shot. I'm going to try to do the best I can with it, but this control module right here where my finger is, this actually has to be moved. Now I'm going to get underneath of here with it. There are 3 bolts that you actually have to remove, 3 bolts that actually hold it. Now first thing I did is I removed this ground wire right here just to gain access to the 2 bolts, because you can see right here where my finger is, you can barely see it, right there where my finger is. This 7-metric bolt has to be loosened. This 7-metric bolt has to be loosened here, and then behind the control module, and I won't be able to get a camera shot on it, what I did is I just took my hand down and I reached all the way to the back of the control module and went up. And as you go up, and I want to see if I can zoom in here on it. I don't know if I'll be able to or not. No, I'm not going to be able to get a shot of it. But directly behind there's another 7-metric that's all the way to the top of the back. You'll just have to look for it. Those are the 3 fasteners plus the ground wire that we're going to loosen. And then that'll let us move the control module. We'll show you the module when it's moved. All right, here's another dynamic shot brought to you by a terrible cameraman. All right, now that you've got your control module out of your way, you can access this white back control panel. There's 3 connections in here that we're going to be working with, a white, a blue, and a black connection. You can see the blue kind of off of my finger there in the right hand corner. The white is right above it right there. The black one is beside of it. Now, to remove these bail connections, what you'll do is right above the bail there, right above the bail trip, you'll push the bail in, and then there's a little button, a release button, and I'll get my hand out of the way. You push the release button, push the bail up, and the bail trip will come out. So that white one right beside of it right here, we're going to be working with that one, and then the blue one right here. We're going to be making our connections at those 3. Now again, you can't really, it's hard for us to film this, but what we've done is we've completed our wiring inside the cab. Now inside the cab, what happened here with our wiring is you were given 4 wires from Amp Research, and they were all 4 different colors, and the colors corresponded to the color of wire that you were tapping into from the vehicle. Now you remember we unhooked the black, the white, and the blue connector. The black connector had its own two color corresponding wires. It was violet and gray, and then violet. The white connector had a violet and yellow wire that we tapped into, and then the blue connector was violet and gray. Now in the blue connector there's 2 violet and gray wires. To be able to check which one that we used, which is correct, is what you'll want to do is you'll want to test the wires for continuity. With the door open, with the driver's side rear door open, you should have continuity. With it closed, you should have no continuity. So that's how we found our correct wire. So now, and they send you speed taps with these to tap into, and you can see those here. Those posi taps is what we use to make our connections. So we've got everything done inside the cab. We're going to go ahead and button everything back up, and then all of our rest of our install now is all going to be outside the truck. All right, now we've got everything inside the cab done and got it cleaned up. And if you're watching this video and you're actually doing this install, you know that what I showed you inside the cab there can be a little bit tedious. You know, the bolt on the back of the control module is hard to get to. It's pretty close quarters inside there, so you're probably happy to be outside and getting some daggone fresh air like I am right now. But I'm at the part of my install now where I'm going to have to do all the simple wiring, the easy stuff. Now, the drops for the motors is what I'm going to be working on right now. And you can see that I still don't have my power hooked up here. I don't have my battery cables back on. I want to get all of this wired up before I start putting my battery cables on and my power to the system. You know, that's up to you if you want to do that. So, and I'm watching to make sure that I keep all of my tag ends and stuff taken care of. So this is my drop from my passenger side. I've already done my driver's side. I ran it right down the fender well underneath of the steering shaft so it'd clear the steering shaft. Didn't have any problems with that, and I took it right to the driver's side motor. I'm going to do the same thing with the passenger side. Now the passenger side is going to have to come all the way across the motor. Okay. All the way across the motor and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep it above the EGR cooler right here, and then I'll make my way down to where it's clear of anything in that direction. So we'll just fish this all the way down. You just want to make sure that you keep this passenger side clear of the exhaust pipes and whatnot. Okay, now I'll route that above the top here, and we'll fasten that, we'll zip tie all that in to keep it out of the way of anything. Okay, now we've got our wiring harness run down. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and hook up our drive motors on both our passenger and our driver side. This is our passenger side drive motor. We'll go ahead and click that in there. All right, now with our wiring harness, you'll see that our wiring harness, we still have our tag ends for our lights. Now with our light installation, we'll go ahead and get ready to get started with that, prepping for this. Now this wiring harness is actually going to have enough to get you all the way to the rear of the truck, the rear door set for the lights. Okay, now we're going to install our lights, and we've got our wiring done to all of our motors. What we're doing now is we're actually just going to be going back and putting our light kits in. So installing our lights on our crew cab truck, it's going to be between your first set of lights is going to have to be mounted at 54, and your back set of lights is going to have to be mounted at 64. So we're going to show you how we're going to do that real quick.
24. You said 54.
24, okay, never mind. Actually, all right. Now we're going to be installing our light kit. These are pretty easy to install. You want to install these. Everything inside your kit that you need is all in one bag. All your light sets, all your connectors, your grommets, the whole shooting match is in there. So what they want you to do is this crew cab truck, we're going to install these lights at, we're going to measure down the pinch welds here at 24 inches and 64 inches is where we're going to install our lights. So we've already measured this 64 off. We're going to go ahead and center punch it and drill it. Now when you drill these, you want to drill them with a 9/32 drill bit. You want to drill them with a 9/32 drill bit, and then just wire them up like any other light that you'd wire. Now that you've got your hole drilled, and you'll want to use a little bit of rust preventative paint around these holes to keep your rust down from where you're drilling there, and you'll expose a little bit of metal. So now what we want to do is, the first thing we want to do is we want to put our grommets in. All right, then you'll want to go ahead and install your light through there. I'm going to go ahead and strip one of the ends, strip my ends back here. These, I'll go ahead and push them both through the grommets there. And I'll finish adjusting that in just a second. Now what we want to do is we want to just go ahead and pull that through and wire this up to our wiring harness. So what I'm going to do here, go ahead and strip this back. Go ahead and crimp on my connectors. We go red to red, black to black on our wires. All right, now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll shrink those up. We'll get ourselves some denatured alcohol, and we're going to clean this lip up. Now, your wires are through the pinch weld mold here. Your light is actually going to stick to this angle of the body panel right here. So that way your light is shining down onto the step. So we're going to go ahead and clean this up, tuck this wiring harness back up, move to the other side, do the other side. Then we're going to finish up our wiring in the engine compartment. We've got all of our wiring done at our lights. Now our lights are wired. We've got everything zip tied up underneath the truck to where nothing's going to get broken or it's in the way. I've got everything wired up coming from the passenger side. It's all zip tied up. I've got everything cleaned up over here and together. My control box, I've got it mounted where I want it. Now I've got power to the steps with the control wires. And what we'll do now is we'll just finish zip tying that up to where it's not quite so in the way, and that finishes up all of our wiring. Now all we have to do is put our steps on and get them adjusted. Now we're going to attach our steps. The steps are really easy to install. In the tracks here, you've got a silver bracket with 2 threaded holes. The fasteners that you've got left are 3/16 Allen headed bolts. They're actually what attach the step to your bracketry framework. So what you're going to do now, and there's really not a whole lot of adjustment where this is a crew cab, there won't be a lot of adjustment. Smaller cabs, you'll have to adjust the step a little bit more front to back, but this is going to be pretty easy for us. So what we're going to do is we're just going to turn this over, and we want the silver attachment block. We want it to fall right here in the hole on the motor arm and on the idler arm as well. So it helps if you got somebody to help you. Needs to come this way, just the fuzz. Needs to come this way. Yep, there you go. Now it should fall in. Got it? All right, now go ahead and once you got it installed, go ahead and put your Allen head bolts in. All right, we're just going to show you function of the steps now. We've got everything done with our install here. Open the door, the steps come out. Back door, it should work for both doors. Your light should work. Now, once you get everything installed here and you get where you want it, what you want to do is you just want to kind of open your door, then get on your steps and just bounce your steps. And what this is going to do is this is going to seat it into the sheet metal, and that'll allow you to, if you have any problems with clearance. So the only other step that we did here that we're not going to show you is because it's just about impossible to shoot with a camera. On both of our brackets, there's 2 holes on the upper parts of the brackets, and they take a 3/16 pop or a 3/16 drill bit and pop rivets that come in the kit. We already installed those while we had the motor brackets down. Really simple to do, just like we did our pop rivets before. We just put 2 more at the top, and that just added a little bit more security. So that completes our install of our amp steps on our 2014 Dodge. If you got a question on this install or any other install, please just let us know.